point passed over the continental US, North America.
And on your left-hand screen is a view inside of Dragon. On your left-hand side is Commander Jasmine Mogbelli, and on your right-hand side is the pilot for this mission, Andreas Mogensen. Again, they are just monitoring. They are able to confirm, on their displays that what they see matches what we see here in mission control as they make their way to docking to the International Space Station. And these views are really awesome. Seeing Earth in the background, looking almost so crisp there.
I know. And Crew-7, once they arrive at the International Space Station, they will have these beautiful views for about 6 months, living and working, doing science and research on the International Space Station. We did get an updated docking time. It has shifted just a few minutes to the right. We're now tracking 9:08 a.m. Eastern Time. Literally just a 3-minute change, so just fine-tuning after we've done the approach initiation burn and that mid-course maneuver. Again, we've passed through waypoint 0, moving up toward waypoint 1. Things continue to look good so far for Dragon Endurance on its journey to the International Space Station. And the astronauts, the first crew to fly on a spacecraft, have the opportunity to name it. And so the first flight of Endurance was the Crew-3 mission. It was named Endurance by the astronauts themselves. Obviously, they said it's a tribute to the tenacity of the human spirit as we push farther than ever with commercial opportunities in low Earth orbit and plans to go to the moon and Mars. So common theme.
Awesome. We're seeing another view from the International Space Station. Looking.
Yeah, if you look closely, there's Dragon in the center there. Again, our Cronus flight controller tracking these views for us in Mission Control Houston.
Thank you, Cronus. And as a reminder, as Dragon approached waypoint 0, was directly under the International Space Station. As it moves to waypoint 1, it's actually going to swing up and align itself with the space station. So you no longer will be looking down from the space station and have that view of Earth in the background, because it will be aligned with the docking port, which is the zenith port today. It's the space-facing side of the International Space Station.
The center of your screen, that is Dragon. And that robotic arm is attached to the Japan exposed facility, so we are able to put some of our experiments outside in the vacuum of space.
Good words there up to the crew. So as I was saying, Hoburg will be in the station's cupola using special software to track Dragon's approach and make sure it stays in the expected zones. Hoburg will also be primed for hatch opening operations once Dragon is docked. He'll start by opening the large hatch on node 2 Zenith, which will give him access into the pressurized mating adapter. The crew will then have to pressurize the vestibule, which is the small space between the hatches on Dragon and space station.
And
This
Dragon
was exposed
SpaceX
to
on the big
vacuum
loop
prior to
ground has
docking.
pulled go for approach 2. Please confirm visors are down and that you are ready for docking.
SpaceX Dragon copies on the big loop go, and also crew members have visors down. We are ready.
Excellent news, Dragon. Ground is going to be enabling approach shortly, and a reminder that after the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted.
Dragon copies.
And great calls again up to the crew, letting them know everything is going smoothly. We're getting really close to docking, just confirming that they have their visors down and they can be in that configuration ahead of docking. So everything good here from the space station side. I'll toss it back over to Hawthorne so that you guys can give us an update on your end.
Thanks, Sandra. And we did hear the Corps also call out that CHOP, which is the crew hands-off point. Basically, that means that the crew must be hands-off. In case of any aborts that happen during that time, it will be done by Dragon. Now, waypoint 2 is up next, and that will put Dragon only 20 meters away from the space station. From here, the spacecraft will focus on aligning its docking system with the International Docking Adapter.
Yeah, so we're getting pretty close. Right now, it looks like we are about 80 meters from the International Space Station. Again, we did not stop at waypoint 1 today. We just kept on moving through that 220-meter mark. We will hold briefly at waypoint 2. That just gives us a chance to do any final checks, make sure everybody's go before moving in for docking. Additionally, we heard previously that the soft capture ring is extended. That's what's going to make first contact with the International Space Station. It will then pull Dragon into the International Space Station's International Docking Adapter before those 12 hooks begin to do that hard capture sequence, really securely securing it to the spacecraft.
And we are expecting initial contact between Dragon and the International Space Station any minute now.
Yeah, we are now 60 meters away from the space station. Again, this is really methodical. It's a very careful process as we prepare for docking, just to ensure the safety of the spacecraft. Like we mentioned, of course, the crew. And again, we do not have views from the International Space Station at this time, but we have good confirmation that Dragon is on the docking axis, continues to move in as planned. Sometimes we don't have these views as we are moving from satellite to satellite in the Tracking Data and Relay Satellite System known as TDRS. Additionally, sometimes we just don't have great views because it's nighttime on the space station. You know, we see sunrise or sunset every 45 minutes. They are in an orbital nighttime at this point. The International Space Station flying 265 statute miles south of Australia. Dragon now 40 meters from the space station, continuing to approach waypoint 2.
And there you can see on your screen, this is a view from Dragon approaching the International Space Station. You can see how close it is. You can begin to see those details on the station. And looking straight ahead in the center of your screen, was the international docking adapter.
And this view from inside Dragon Endurance itself. So these are our 4 crew members. You can only see the commander and pilot right now, Jasmine McBelly and Andreas Mogensen, just monitoring the approach on those crew display panels. Again, they are not making commands at this point. Additionally, at that 2 meters away from the space station, we hear the chop call, at which point they should not send any commands. Right now, we are at 23 meters from the space station, continuing to close in on that zenith port of Node 2. Down toward the bottom of your screen, you can see the nose cone of Dragon Endeavour, which brought the Crew-7 or Crew-6 astronauts to the International Space Station. So we're expecting to hear the call for waypoint 2 shortly, where we will do a brief pause before moving in towards the docking port.
Also, a cool thing in this view is Dragon is now directly above the International Space Station. And you can tell in the view because you can see the clouds on Earth in the background.
And it looks like we have reached that 20-meter waypoint 2 mark.
Station, Houston on the Big Loop. Dragon is on final approach and is go for docking. Monitor per steps 5 and 6 in 1.102 Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Houston Station copies all.
All right, confirmation from Amy Dill, the Capcom in Mission Control Houston, to the crew that they are moving in for docking. So we are now 16 meters away from the International Space Station. Again, continuing slowly into the Node 2 Zenith port for docking today.
It's such a cool view. It almost feels like we're on Dragon approaching the International Space Station.
Space Station and Dragon now flying over Australia. And Dragon just 13 meters away. Again, a very methodical and careful approach to our docking port. Great views coming from Dragon this morning as we get ready to welcome 4 new crew members to the orbiting laboratory.
Dragon is at 10 meters.
Copy, 10 meters.
And we are just moments away from Dragon docking with the International Space Station. First will be a soft capture, and then there will be 12 hooks deploying 6 at a time to create that hard capture between the vehicle and the station.
Dragon now just 7 meters away, now 6 meters away from the Node 2 port.
5 meters.
Copy, 5.
That call coming from Dragon Commander Jasmine Mogbelli, her first space flight to the International Space Station. standing by for the call of crew hands-off point, or CHOP.
Stop. 1 meter.
And Dragon, we see soft capture complete, and attenuation will begin shortly.
Dragon copy.
And contact confirmed. 6:16 a.m. Pacific time, 261 statute miles over Australia.
Guys, thank you for the welcome.
And that welcome coming from the crew aboard the International Space Station. Endurance has arrived with its international crew. They will begin the hard capture sequence shortly, but we are now up to 11 crew members on the International Space Station after they float through the hatch this morning.
And on the big loop, ring retraction is in progress.
Dragon copy. Ring retraction in progress.
Now, again, we don't have views right at this moment of Dragon on the International Space Station, but we did see that docking again at 6:16 a.m. Pacific time as the International Space Station and Dragon were flying 261 statute miles over Australia.
And there's still a few steps to complete before Dragon is securely attached to the station. We've now done the soft capture, but then there will be the completion of the soft capture ring retraction, as well as hard capture sequence beginning, and then finally hard dock completing. And again, that will require 12 hooks to deploy. Again, 6 at a time will deploy to make that hard capture completion.
Of course, once we have a successful hard capture, it still is going to take a little bit before we see our crew members float through the hatch into the International Space Station and officially bring us up to that total of 11, at least for about the next few days or so. We will first pressurize the vestibule. Well, Woody Hoburg will open the station side of the hatch. He will pressurize the vestibule, the space between both of those hatches, the Dragon hatch and the station hatch, bringing that to the same pressure as is inside Dragon and the space station. It's much of what we are used to here on Earth. Eventually, they will bring the crew members aboard. Again, they will give us a welcome ceremony. We'll get to see them and hear their first remarks about their visit to the space station, maybe what the ride was like. Then they will move right into work. They will start their safety briefing with the crew, making sure that they remember all their training from the ground, get brought up to speed on the International Space Station itself. This is Dragon Endurance's third visit to the International Space Station, first on Crew-3, then with Crew-5, now Crew-7. It joins Dragon Endeavour. Both docked to the Node 2 module, also known as Harmony.
And That next step, soft capture ring retraction, is typically expected about 4 minutes after soft capture. So we should.
And Dragon, ring retraction is complete. The docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
Dragon copies.
And what perfect timing. Soft capture ring retraction is now complete.
As you mentioned earlier, during this time, we're also connecting an umbilical from Dragon to the station. Dragon has been using power generated by its solar arrays, also battery power. Once it's connected to the International Space Station, it can start using power from the station itself. You got a great view of those solar arrays as we were flying in this morning. And so at this point, Dragon will probably start using the station power for the remainder of its time on the space station over these next 6 months. And again, we do have soft capture complete for Dragon Endurance. We are standing by for the start of the hard capture sequence. This process takes several minutes, but it is the securing of 12 hooks from Dragon to the International Space Station, giving us that firm, secure hold.
MCS configured. Proceeding with hook driving.
And we did hear that call out, proceeding with hook driving. That is the beginning of the hard capture sequence. Again, as Leo was just mentioning, there will be 12 hooks, and they will deploy 6 at a time. So there'll be 6 hooks first. Once those are fully latched to the International Space Station, then the next set of 6 hooks will begin to deploy. And this process should take a few minutes, about 4 minutes or so, until hard docking is complete.
Again, we welcomed Crew-7 to the International Space Station at 6:16 a.m. Pacific time this morning. Here's your view inside Dragon Endurance right now over the shoulder of our commander, Jasmine Mogbelli, and pilot Andreas Mogensen. It was Mogbelli's first trip to the International Space Station and Mogensen's second. This is also Konstantin Borisov's first trip to the International Space Station. And Satoshi Furukawa is returning as well. So he is the most experienced on this crew when it comes to days in space. I believe he has 165 days from previous missions. This is the view that we saw as we were preparing for docking. It was giving us great views of the docking port itself. Now that we have completed that soft capture, we are obviously pulled into the space station. And those first 6 hooks are driving. We are, again, in the hard capture process right now. So we'll see those first 6 hooks drive, followed by the second 6, at which point they will be considered officially hard docked to the space station. We're getting some good progress on the hooks driving. It looks like the second 6 are now starting to drive. Meanwhile, on the International Space Station, again, it is a Sunday, so it is considered an off-duty day for the crew. The 3 cosmonauts currently on board are eating their midday meal. Meanwhile, Woody Hoberg is monitoring Dragon's docking. He will eventually assist with the pressurization of the vestibule, the hatch openings, and welcoming the crew on board.